Hello, welcome back. So we are in module 2 now, that is about database design. So this session will cover the introduction part of this database design, and for coming sessions will cover the details of this database design. So module 2 is organized in this way. First we will have an informal guidelines for relation schemas. Then we have different functional dependencies and normal forms like 1NF, 2NF, 3NF and BCNF. Then we will go through different normalization techniques, and then we have to go through fourth normal form and fifth normal form by learning multi-valued and joint dependencies. We learned how to represent this database schema in a user understandable form in a graphical way, that is the entity relationship model. And then we had a mapping procedure to convert this entity relationship model into a form which can be directly implemented, right? That was our relational database schema. So relational database schema consists of a set of relation schemas, right? So each relation is a set of or a grouping of attributes. So how do we group attributes there? We just used some natural and logical grouping, right? If we apply this mapping procedure, a natural and logical grouping of attributes are there. Or by some intuitions or common sense, we grouped these attributes into relations, right? So now we need some formal way of analyzing why one grouping of attributes into a relation schema may be better than the other. So we need some measure of goodness or measure the quality of the design. So we have to evaluate each and every relations, and we have to optimize this relation using some algorithms. So that is what we have to cover in database design. So there are two different levels at which we can discuss the goodness of relation schemas, either at the logical level or at the implementation level. So doing so at the logical level, so definitely this level is about how users interpret the relation schemas and the meaning of their attributes, right? So having good relation schemas at this level definitely enables users to understand clearly the meaning of the data in the relation, so they can able to formulate their queries correctly, right? So whereas at the implementation level, it is about how the tuples in a base relations are actually stored and updated. That is how these tuples are actually stored in the physical storage like hard disk. So this database design mainly concentrate on the second one to measure the goodness of this relational database schema and then improve this relations. Okay. Now about the database design. So there are two different approaches for database design. Either we can use the bottom-up strategy or a top-down strategy. Coming to bottom-up strategy, it is also called design by synthesis. So in this, the starting point will be a set of attributes and their relations. Okay. So we will consider the basic relationship among different individual attributes as a starting point, and uses these relationships among different attributes to construct relation schemas. Actually, this bottom-up approach is not very popular in practice because, as we know, we are starting from a set of attributes and their relationship among themselves, right? So there can be very large number of relationships. Maybe between every pair of attributes there can be a relationship. So collecting all these relationships together and then analyzing all these relations to form a grouping of attributes is almost impractical. So we are using the second method for design strategy, that is top-down design strategy, that is also called design by analysis. There we start with a number of groupings of attributes. Okay, so we have a set of groupings already in hand. Then we will try to measure the goodness of these groupings, and we will apply some algorithm to improve if needed. Okay, so just for example, in our case, after mapping procedure when applied, that is our ER model will be converted into a set of relation schemas, right? So this will be the starting point for design. So we have a set of relation schemas in our hand. That is already we have a set of groupings. This will be taken as a starting point for design. So what is actually a relational database design? It takes as input either a set of relations or set of attributes. So in the case of a top-down strategy, it takes a set of relations, right? And it analyzes those relations to measure the goodness of this design. Then it decomposes if necessary. So we can see what are the different scenarios in which some decompositions or different changes are required in the existing relations. Okay, and finally it produces a set of relations, another set of relations. Okay, and the ultimate goal of this relational database design is information preservation and minimum redundancy. So all the information present in the current set of relations should be there even after decomposition, but the redundancy should be minimized to the maximum possible extent. So in a bit more detail, information preservation mainly in terms of maintaining all concepts like in attribute types, entity types, relationship types. So all those concepts which were originally captured in the conceptual design, that ER model, should be there even after all the steps of this relational database design. And minimizing redundancy means minimizing redundant storage. So if the same information is stored multiple times, there can be a lot of issues like multiple updates and how to maintain consistency among multiple copies like that. So all those issues should be addressed by minimizing the redundant information stored. So this session will give you a set of informal design guidelines to measure the goodness or quality of a relational schema design. So these are quite informal, and formal constraints like functional dependencies and all will be discussed in further sessions. So let us go through different informal guidelines for measuring the quality of a good design. First one is making sure attribute semantics are clear. That's the first thing. Then reducing redundant information in tuples, reducing null values in tuples, and disallowing possibility of generating spurious tuples. So we can see each one in detail. So first guideline is about attribute semantics. So what do you mean by semantic of a relation? So it is a meaning resulting from interpretation of attributes values in a tuple. So whenever we group attributes to form a relation schema, we assume that attributes belonging to one relation have certain real world meaning, right? And a proper interpretation will be there associated with those attributes. So when we go through the attributes for a particular relation, the corresponding semantics should be clear. That means it is a better schema design. Just for example, in the case of our employee company database, we have an employee relation, right? If we go through those attributes for any tuple in this employee, it will give an information about that employee, that name of the employee is this, SSN, birthday is this, address is this, and this employee belongs to that particular department. Those are the information. So the corresponding semantics is clear, right? Like that if we go through any tuple in department, the name of that department, the number and the manager SSN is like this. So all those information is very clear. That means all those attributes together forms a meaningful information or meaningful interpretation for a particular department or particular employee. Okay, so these are some examples for populated relational schemas. Okay, so we have employees with the different tuples. So the meanings are clear, interpretations are always clear, like department, the research department, number of the department is 5, the manager's assistant is like this. For department locations also, department number is 1, corresponding location is at Houston, like that. Everything is clear, right? Now the guideline 1. Design relation schema so that it is easy to explain its meaning. Okay, so do not combine attributes from multiple entity types and relationship types into a single relation. Okay, so if a relation schema corresponds to one entity type or one relationship type, definitely the interpretation will be straightforward, right? Otherwise, if we combine different relations together to form a new relation, definitely there can be some ambiguities in interpreting the meaning, right? So we can see some examples which violate these guidelines. Okay, see here we have a relation employee department. So we are combining the information pertaining to employee with department together to form a relation. Okay, so all when we take a tuple, it contains information like employee name, SSN, birth date, address, then department number, department name, manager and assistant of the department, all those information are there in a single tuple. Like that we have another relation, employee project. So here also we are combining the attributes of two different relations, employee and project together. If we take a particular tuple, it contains the SSN of the employee, project number, hours, employee name of the employee, project name, then project location, all those information are there. So if we logically think, there is nothing wrong in keeping all this information together, right? But it indicates a poor design. Okay, the design quality is poor. So they can be used as views later for the user's convenience, but they cause problems when we use as base relations. So we can see what are the different problems created by this extra information in each and every tuple. The second guideline is about redundant information in tuples and update anomalies. So when we group attributes into a relation schema, it has a significant effect on storage space. Just for example, in our case, we have in a company database, we have employee and department as two different relations, right? We can keep information pertaining to all employees in one particular relation and information pertaining to all departments in another entity or another relation, that is department. And we have seen an example which violate this condition, right? Violate the guideline 1, that we combined this employee and department together to form a relation employee department. In effect, it is actually performing a natural join, right? So for each employee, the information pertaining to the department, all the information pertaining to the corresponding department also will be stored in that case, right? So actually it's a natural join. Just for example, suppose department 1 contains 10,000 employees. So for each employee, all the information pertaining to department should be stored in each tuple, right? So 10,000 times we replicated the same information about a particular department. So that much storage will be wasted. That is the first thing. And second, this extra information or redundant information will create a lot of update anomalies. So those are insertion anomaly, deletion anomaly, and modification anomaly. So we can see these three types of anomaly. So guideline 2 is design based relation schema so that no update anomalies are present in the relations. Okay. So maximum possible we have to avoid these types of anomalies. So if any anomalies are present, note them clearly and make sure that the programs that update the database will operate correctly without creating any problem. Okay. Now we can see an example for any relation which violates this guideline 2. Okay. See this employee department. For each employee, we are repeating the same information for a department, right? The department for the department 5, these are the information. Department number is 5, department name is research, and department manager assistant is this. And the same information is repeating for all the employees who belongs to department 5, right? 4 times the same information is kept in the table. Like that for department 4, 3 employees are there. For all those employees, the same information pertaining to this department is actually stored in the table. Okay, so these are redundant information, right? We need not store all those information. We can keep it as a separate table, separate relation. Only the department number need to be kept in the employee table. For the employee project also, a lot of informations are redundant here. Okay, so the guideline, these two relations violate guideline 2. So before moving to guideline 3, let us discuss some examples of insertion anomaly, deletion anomaly, etc. First, let us take the case of insertion anomaly. Okay, suppose we want to enter the details of a new employee into this employee department relation. Okay, we have a new employee. Two different possibilities are there, that employee is not yet assigned any department. So in that case, what happens? If we insert the corresponding employee information, the corresponding department information should be kept as null, right? So that much extra storage space is wasted. That's first case. And suppose that employee is already assigned a department. That's the second case. In that case, all the information pertaining to that department should be filled correctly, right? We should know the department number, that is by default, the name of the department, the manager assistant of the department, all those information should be entered correctly. Otherwise, there's some consistency problem will be there, right? So that is first insertion anomaly. We should keep all the information for a particular department for each employee we enter newly. Otherwise, consistency problem will be there. Whereas if we keep this employee and department as separate table, no such problem is there. Only the department number should be known. That should be inserted into the employee table. All the information pertaining to that department is already there in the department table, right? We need not enter it further. So that is the first case. Okay. Now suppose we have a new department. We have to insert the information about a new department. And no employee is assigned to this department for the time being. What happens? We have to insert a new department information here, right? New entry with information pertaining to department number, department name, manager assistant, etc. will be there. And all these information should be kept as null because we are not assigned any employee to that department. Can we do that? No, right? Because we are using the SSN value of the employee as the primary key here. So this will create a entity integrity problem, right? So that is also an example for insertion anomaly. Now example for a deletion anomaly. Let us take the last entries in this table. Okay, the one and only one employee works for department 1, that is headquarters. Suppose we want to remove this employee, we want to delete the information pertaining to this employee. What happens? The information pertaining to this department also will be deleted, right? The headquarters, the department headquarters also will be deleted. That's an example for deletion anomaly. Okay. Whereas if we keep this information separately, the employee Bog James in one table, employee table, and headquarters information in department table, there is no such a problem, right? We can simply delete this employee information without affecting the department table, right? That is delete anomaly. And let us take the case of a modification anomaly. Okay. Suppose in case of employee department relation, if we change the value of one of the attributes of a particular department, say the manager of the department 5, we just change the manager assistant of department 5. What happens? Wherever this department 5 occurs in this relation, we have to change the manager assistant. Maybe 10,000 times the department 5 is there. That's much time we have to change the department manager assistant of the corresponding entries. So if we fail to update some tuples, the same department will be shown to have two different values for manager, right? This is definitely an inconsistent state. So all those anomalies should be removed by following guideline 2. The third guideline is about null values in tuples, right? So if we are not properly designing different relation schemas, we may group many attributes together into a fat relation, right? And finally what happens if we populate this type of schemas, it may end up with many null values. Okay, so what are the different problems with these null values? It creates a lot of storage wastage, and it will create some problems in understanding the meaning of the corresponding tuple. Okay. And the guideline 3, as far as possible, avoid placing attributes in a base relation whose values may frequently be null. Okay, maximum possible we have to avoid any attribute which is having null value. Okay. So if nulls are unavoidable, make sure that they apply in exceptional cases only, not to a majority of tuples. Let us take an example. Okay. Suppose only 5% of employees is having individual office. So in that case, better to avoid an attribute called office number in the employee table. If you are including such an attribute in this employee table, the rest 95% of the employee, the corresponding field will be null, right? Corresponding attribute will be null. So better to avoid such an attribute in the employee table. Instead, keep that as a separate table, employee office. Now only the employee who is having an individual office will have an entry in this second table. So employee SSN, the corresponding office number. So two column or two attribute tuples can be there. So we can thereby we can avoid a lot of null values in the base relation. Okay. So the last design guideline, the fourth design guideline is about generation of spurious tuples, right? So before moving to that guideline, let us see what is actually spurious tuple. Okay. So you remember the relation, this employee project relation, right? This is not a good design because lot of redundant information will be there if we store all this information together, right? Just for example, here for each employee, we are storing the information about the project he or she is working on, right? The project number, hours, employee name, project name, everything will be stored here, right? So the same project may be worked on by different employee. For each employee, we are storing all this information. So lot of extra information is there with every employee project tuple. So suppose we are dividing this employee project into two different tables. We are decomposing into two different tables using some guideline. Suppose we are getting two different tables by decomposing that employee project. We got one as employee location and the second one as employee project. Okay, this is also not a good design, and we can see how the spurious tuples will be generated using these two different tables. Okay, so for the time being, let us assume that this employee project table is decomposed into two different tables: employee location and employee project. To avoid this redundancy, thereby we can remove all those anomalies present. Okay. So for the employee locations relation, the meaning is that the employee whose name is e-name works on a project whose location is project location, P location, right? So these two together forms the primary key for this relation. Like that, in case of employee project 1, the meaning is that the employee whose SSN is SSN works on a project this much hours. That project number is P number, the project name is P name, and project location is P location. So here the SSN and the project number together forms the primary key. Okay, so this is how we decomposed our original employee project table. Now these are examples for data populated in these two different tables or relations. Okay, so for John Smith is work on two different projects, right? So two different entries will be there for John Smith with project locations are Bel Air and Sugarland. Like that for every employees, all entries will be there for all the projects he or she is working for, right? For an employee project also we have this much data available. Now suppose we want to recover the original information present in this employee project table or earlier schema which we decomposed, right? So we want to recover the information present in that table. So what we can do, we will perform a natural join on these two different tables, right? So we will perform a natural join. So based on what attribute we can perform a natural join? P location, that is a common attribute present in these two different tables, right? We will perform a natural join and we will project the attributes, the required attributes. Okay. So this is the result of applying the natural join on those two relations. Okay, a lot of other tuples are also there. For space concern, we are showing only a few entries here. And all those tuples which are marked with star are actually not present in the original table, original relation, our employee project relations. So this produce some undesired results in the natural join. See, lot of other unwanted or undesirable results are there. These are called spurious tuples. All these star tuples are spurious. Okay. Here we are getting like such a result because in this case, the P location is the attribute that relates employee location and employee project, right? But the P location is neither a primary key nor a foreign key in either of these two relations. So that is the main reason why we are getting such undesired tuples or spurious tuples. So guideline 4 states that design relation schemas to be joined with equality conditions on attributes that are appropriately related. Always select the joining attributes which are appropriate and which should guarantee that no spurious tuples are generated. Okay, So always avoid relations that contain matching attributes that are not foreign key primary combinations. So always we have to perform this natural join on a combination foreign key primary key, such a combination. Then only we will get proper results or desired results. So we have already seen example for some table design which creates such violations, right? Which generates spurious tuples. So informally, we discussed the different situations that lead to problematic relation schemas, and we propose some informal guidelines for a good relations design, right? So these were the problem we pointed out there. Anomalies that cause redundant works to be done, wastage of storage space due to nulls, and difficulty of performing operations and joins due to null values, and also generation of invalid and spurious data during joins. Okay, so in the next session we will see different formal concepts and theory that may be used to define the goodness and badness of individual relation schemas more precisely. So we will first discuss some dependencies as a tool for analysis, like first normal form, second, third, Boy's code, etc. Then we will use some strategy for achieving a good design by decomposing a badly designed relation appropriately. Okay, thank you.